Hi, I'm Guadalupe Martinez. This is for Anatomy and Physiology. I'll be showing you the parts of a dissected sheep brain. So right here I've got my sheep brain. I've got my worksheet from Bio 250 going over the parts so I can go down them. Hopefully I don't miss anything. Okay, so we already have the cut open sheep brain. I made a cut right down the middle, actually during the longitudinal, right? So during, along the longitudinal cerebral fissure, which was right down the middle. That in itself separated my two hemispheres. So I have my right, this is actually my right hemisphere, this is my left hemisphere of the sheep brain. In the front section right here is my cerebrum. The rear section is my cerebellum. Within my cerebrum, okay, so this is the better section to tell right here. Within my cerebrum, okay, I've got my sulcus, which is this first area right there, the sulcus. Right underneath, past the sulcus, I have my gyrus. Okay, so this whole lighter area right there, that's the gyrus. Like I said, cut along this longitudinal cerebral fissure. Next, I've got my brain stem. Okay, my brain stem runs all along the the base of the brain, all the way to the spinal cord. Okay, spinal cord, which is right here at the rear of the brain. Within the brain stem, okay, within the brain stem, we have the midbrain, which is right here. This is the midbrain. Next, we have the cerebral peduncle, right? So the cerebral peduncle, as well as the superior colliculus. Okay. Okay, so we have the superior colliculus, which is right here on top. Then the inferior colliculus, which is the bottom section. So the superior, then the inferior. All right, so we have our pons, okay? Yeah, that's light. The pons are actually down is right here, okay? This is our pons. Next we have the medulla oblongata, right? So the medulla oblongata, part of the brain stem, okay, is behind the pons. So right here, behind the pons, is the medulla oblongata. Like I said, the cerebellum, okay, the cerebellum is the rear half of the brain, in between the cerebrum and the brain stem, right there. The cerebellum, two lateral, like I said, the two lateral hemispheres, okay, of the brain. I already cut it up. Next, we have our meninges. Okay, so it's actually pretty hard to tell, but first we've got the dura mater, which would be on the outside. Then you have the arachnoid, okay, and then I believe the last is the pia mater, which is this section that you can see right here, kind of that glossy casing right there. So I believe that that's the pia mater, then the arachnoid, and then the dura mater would be on top of that. So pretty difficult to see those right here. The pituitary glands, okay, looking at the actually next we're going to be flipping it under to the underside of the brain, and actually pull this one off. So we'll use this section right here. We have our cranial nerves. Okay, so first looking at our olfactory bulb. Okay, so our olfactory bulb is right here, and if we were to connect them, you could kind of see both of them right there. There's the olfactory bulb here, the olfactory bulb on this side. The olfactory nerve, okay, the olfactory nerve is right in the bulb right there. So there's that nerve. Next we have the optic nerve. Okay, so the optic nerve came apart a little bit, but kind of makes an X. So here's it's actually the right side of the brain, the right hemisphere. So right here, and then it would cross over, and that's where this piece right here goes. So you got your optic nerve, crosses over here. Here's your optic nerve right there. So 2 optic nerves. Next, the optic chasm, sorry, the optic chasm is kind of where they meet in the middle, right here in the middle section. So that's the optic chasm. And it all kind of runs along, turns into the optic tract. So tract, it's hard to tell where the optic tract is, but it's kind of under right here. So it kind of runs underneath, down right there. And this is kind of the optic tract, right down in here. Next, the trigeminal and the trochlear. All right, so the trigeminal and the trochlear, it's the trigeminal nerve is in the rear. Let's see if it's a little easier to tell on this one. I believe this is the trigeminal nerve back here in the rear. Okay, so back in here. And then what else do we have? The oculomotor is right here in this section. Right, next, make sure I didn't miss anything. Brainstem. We talked about the brainstem right here. The pons, medulla oblongata. All right, so now moving on to our mid-sagittal section. Turn my brain over. Okay, so the mid-sagittal section, our corpus callosum. Our corpus callosum, it's easier to tell on this one, is this right in here. So here's the corpus callosum, our thalamus and a hypothalamus. So we have our thalamus, which is right here in the center, and then the hypothalamus is right under that. So it'd be about right in here, this area here. So our thalamus, hypothalamus. Next, our lateral ventricles. All right, and then we have our septum pellucidum.
Ready.
All right, so we have our septum pellucidum. Okay, so our septum pellucidum is, if you can see it, it's kind of this darker section right here in the center, the middle of the brain. That's the septum pellucidum. All right, we have our third ventricle, which is this opening right there, third ventricle, and then the fourth ventricle is back here, this opening right in here. So that's the fourth ventricle. So we got the fourth ventricle, our septum pellucidum. Next is the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so the cerebral aqueduct is this opening right in here, right there. That's the cerebral aqueduct. Talked about our fourth ventricle and our arbor vitae. So this is our arbor vitae. If you can see the kind of spider-webbed discoloration right there, that's the arbor vitae. Last, we talked about the spinal cord. Okay, the rear section right here, that's our spinal cord. And within the spinal cord, we have our white, okay, our outer white matter and our inner gray matter right there. So there you got your gray and there your white. All right, so that should cover all the sections that I was able to identify of the sheep brain. That concludes this video. Thanks.